Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of the eCommerce Expo at the Cross Border Theatre. My name is Max O'Brien. I'm the sales director at Globally for the UK and the Middle East. And really excited to sit down and speak with you today about the opportunity cross-border in e-commerce, and especially about the market trends that Globally is seeing across all of our different merchants and across 200 different countries. So let me just start with a little bit about Globally and why we have a credible source of data here, and we can give you a lot of information around the opportunity D2C cross-border. Globally is the world's leading platform to help brands accelerate and drive their global D2C online business. We're currently partnered today with over 1,000 merchants across Europe, the US, and Asia. A lot of those merchants on the right-hand side of this presentation. Over 800 employees across the globe. This year we'll do around $3.6 billion of product sales through the platform across those 1,000 merchants. And as of May 2021, we publicly listed on the NASDAQ under GLBE. Out of the box, Globally has an integration into a merchant's e-commerce platform that gives them all of the localization capabilities that they need to expand to 200 countries. That comes in the form of translation, currencies, payment methods, duty and tax, and how to manage the different thresholds of these different markets, but also to calculate it and guarantee so the customer doesn't have to pay it at arrival. Shipping, giving access to carriers, but also being able to offer attractive rates to merchants to be able to get the cheapest possible express, standard, postal option to any different market around the world. Returns, being able to give easy, transparent returns processes for customers anywhere in the world. Handle all the fraud, so any chargebacks from fraudulent customers. And then the last part, which we'll come into a little bit more today, is around the best practices that customers, that brands need to make sure that little tips and tricks around handling shipping, handling duties, which payment methods to offer, we provide through best practice through our account management team. And obviously a large part of what we do is around the data. So globally, we'll do around 20 million transactions through the platform this year, about 2 billion sessions across the 1,000+ merchants, and also transacting across 200 different countries. So a rich data set that will be able to bring you some know-how and hopefully give you some educational tools to go away to your own retail setup and explore and push into international even more aggressively. So let's start with the global e-commerce opportunity direct to consumer. So really promising. We're seeing stability since pre-COVID. Obviously there was volatility pre and post-COVID. In COVID, you obviously saw an unbelievable rise in the demand for e-commerce, hitting that 27% in 2019. And then naturally with post-COVID relief and some kind of macro headwinds around the wars, the war between Ukraine and Russia, that did drop into 2021 and 2022. However, the really exciting opportunity now is you can see this is now correcting back to pre-COVID levels, and you can start to see that we're starting to grow on the right-hand side of the graph back in 2023 into high single-digit percentages, and moving forward into 2027, that looks to continue. There's a strong shift of customers looking to shop directly from brands now, which is exciting for brands themselves, because obviously you own the customer. There's higher margins to be able to make use of. And big brands like Adidas and Disney, we're starting to see a moving away from this distributor model and actually start trading directly to their customers in all of these different markets. As you can see, in 2019, 49% of shoppers were buying directly from the brand. But as you can see in 2022, 64% of those shoppers are now going direct. So it's only growing year on year. And for a merchant and a retailer, it's better to own your customer and be able to market to them effectively rather than someone else having that data instead. By 2030, the global direct consumer e-commerce market will be just under $8 trillion in terms of worth. So there's a huge opportunity out there for merchants to start taking advantage of. As you can see, around on average, across the different key markets, on average 50% of shoppers are shopping internationally. And even if you're looking at markets like Switzerland, that number is even getting up to 60%. So there's a huge demand for international shopping. It's just up to you how easy you make it for that shopper. So Globally conducted some surveys across lots of different merchants that we work with and lots of different verticals. So we're going to provide a little bit of our own data here. And actually, the really exciting thing about cross-border is that across all age groups, people are shopping internationally, and actually the percentage of shoppers is getting higher and higher. So we look at the younger generation in the Gen Y and Gen Zs, they're actually shopping internationally more. They've got access to social media networks that gives them access to global brands at their fingertips. And actually, the exciting part is that this generation will get older and older and actually be even more profitable for merchants when they're selling internationally, because that generation will move through and always shop online in the digital space. So what I'd like to do now is talk a little bit more around the market trends that we've seen in e-commerce, because it has been an interesting 2 years for the majority of industries, and obviously everyone in the e-commerce industry knows that e-commerce is a booming segment, but more to kind of touch on e-commerce as an international product, and obviously the challenges that we've seen there across the years. But last year was a tough economic time, especially for mainland Europe and back end of last year with North America. But there's still some high pressures around inflation and increasing costs. But the overall outlook from a lot of the big players in the financial sector is 2023 is looking a little bit more optimistic. So it's definitely a good time to start looking at international, looking at the different markets out there and how you can make the best advantage of that as a retailer selling online. So across our merchants, you can see, and these are merchants that have been trading for Globally over a period of years. So we've got good year-on-year data to be able to provide this to you today. But essentially, you can see North America was growing at a much faster rate, or slightly faster rate in Q1, and slowed down a little bit in Q2 this year. But on average, still growing at 2% in the first half of 2023. Europe, to everyone here, is now actually starting to bounce back after a turbulent period last year. Obviously, things with the war, it's calming down slightly in terms of the news, and obviously inflation and prices on energy are starting to creep lower down. So Europe is bouncing back, which is really, really positive. APAC is still a little bit, turbulent based on the fact that Australia and New Zealand, there's quite a lot of instability there in terms of the financial pressures, but actually that is pulling them down as a segment, as a continent, whereas the Middle East is just thriving. So I'm going to separate some of the countries out in a second, but the Middle East is, as a new market opportunity for merchants, is thriving. And then we've now got a little bit of a setback around 2022 versus 2021 versus 2023, and now back to 2022. So you see North America was performing very strongly. There's a lot of challenges around macro headwinds there with high inflation costs that have changed that kind of scenery from the growth rates that we saw back in 2022. So that has dropped slightly, but is still growing, and obviously a big market to still see single-digit % growth. Europe, as I touched on, really starting to bounce back, which is off the back of obviously more stability in the European markets. And the Middle East is a crazy market that's starting to grow, with countries like Mexico, UAE, Saudi becoming some of the fastest growing markets that Globally sees across all of our different merchants. As you can see, Mexico absolutely flying. And this is for the second year in a row. So it's definitely one that, as the population there is growing, the GDP is getting stronger, the currency is getting stronger, and the consumer spending is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So as a brand, I think the key message from the sales trends that we're providing here is Don't rely on the major markets you've been selling to before as much as previous years. Be able to be agile. Make sure that you're able to, through technology or through partners, be able to take advantage of new markets like the UAE, Saudi, and Mexico here that for the last 2 years are not showing any sign of slowing down. So the big question, how do you maximize the cross-border e-commerce opportunity? And the real challenge is that it's not easy. You know, you can't have an approach for one European market or the US and hope that that works in all of these different countries. You've got to have a tailored approach for every single country in the world, which is over 200 certain, you know, kind of different markets that you need to tailor for. And that's languages, currency, handling the currencies in a local way so it's rounded in a certain precise manner that customers are used to seeing shopping domestically. All the local payment methods that they're used to seeing so they can transact seamlessly. Shipping, manage, you know, good delivery times, lots of different options so they can get it fast or slightly slower depending on the cost, and the challenge around duties and taxes, and making sure that customers know that if they're shopping from you and they're spending over a certain amount, you as a brand are taking care of that duties and tax, whether it's in the product price, whether it's separated at the checkout, or which you don't want to be doing, letting them pay on the door. So it's a minefield out there to get it right for all of these countries. But you've got to get it. If you want to maximize the opportunity, you need to get these core fundamentals down the bottom correct. I mean, cross-border as an opportunity is really more around customers wanting more variety and potential and access to better products. So when you can shop on a global level, obviously there's much more choice. So we see that through the survey that we conducted, the large percentages of people shopping for variety and product quality. So as long as you can fix the elements here that you see on the next slide, which are the friction points, you're going to absolutely be able to capitalize on this huge opportunity. As you can see, shipping being too expensive and delivery times being too long are reasons why customers don't want to shop potentially from you or from international brands. Fix those, and you can start to see it being a huge, huge potential. So the key here is to get an end-to-end localized customer experience through a welcome message that tells that customer no matter where they are in the world, we ship to you wherever you are. You can pay in your currency, payment methods are available, duties and taxes can all be managed, the checkout is fully localized to you. You've got access to lots of different carriers that you could show to your customer with great delivery times and at great prices, and also be able to handle returns. Because customers shopping internationally, the first thing they check is your returns policy. And if you're making it expensive, confusing, you might as well, give up. You've got to make it, you don't necessarily have to make it free, but making it easy and transparent for them to actually return something to you is an absolute core fundamental in the cross-border e-commerce setup. So the key is smart localization, and essentially being able to open up the world, cater to the world in all these different countries of their local requirements, be able to handle local pricing to that specific market, round it effectively, build in margins for you so you can offset shipping costs, duties, etc. Delivery and returns, making sure that delivery is affordable and they've got plenty of options there to make their choices, and manage tax and duty. You wouldn't believe how many customers get put off shopping from their favorite brands by just not making sure that tax and duty is built in or separated and letting them pay it at the point of sale rather than getting hit with a customs invoice at their door, and that leaves such a sour taste in their mouth. So it's not easy. Globally do a good job of making it easy, but it is there, and the world is your oyster in terms of e-commerce. That's it from me. Globally stand is just over there if you've got any questions and wanted to speak to some of our experts. But hopefully we've got a few minutes for some questions in the audience.
So I come from the very close to my heart what you spoke about translation and languages. So problem. Hi, Biraj here. So I come from the translation and localization industry. It's very close to my heart what you said, and just one point in most of the graphs and data that you showed, there wasn't a lot of focus around the Indian market. Is it not one of the key markets for you, or is it just a global trend that you don't see much movement happening there?
India, I think there's demand there. The challenge is for a lot of global brands is the difficulty with duty and tax. So when you ship cross-border into India, duties and taxes is the high 50% of the basket. So almost half of the value of your products will be spent on duties. So if there's big margins there to subsidize and build into the price, then yes, India is a great market. But if, in our experience, it's quite a challenge with duties, and it's hard to subsidize those costs when they're that expensive.
Just a quick question around Brexit. Do you see, we've experienced a lot of companies being hesitant about exporting and importing to the UK after Brexit. Do you advise specifically around that?
Yeah, I mean, as a sales director, when Brexit came along, it made my job a lot easier because no one knew what was coming. And I mean, I'll be honest, we didn't either. But because we had hundreds of merchants relying on us, we had to get the infrastructure in place. So what Globally does is we actually take the transfer of ownership from the merchant in the UK or in the EU, wherever they are, and it's our liability to manage VAT in Europe, sales tax in the US. So the beauty is you selling it to us domestically. So that was a model with us becoming the merchant of record that made brands go, wow, okay, now this is simpler. There was obviously troubles with shippers, turning off solutions, but yeah, it's still difficult, but as long as you're building in the duties and taxes, you've got good options for carriers where you can reroute to different options if needed, and everyone is now building in the duty, so everyone's naturally got more expensive, so you're not going to be alone if you do increase your prices to absorb those duties.
Hi, Max.
Hiya.
Thanks for the presentation. Really impressive. You mentioned returns is very crucial for the sellers when they selling cross-border to foreign countries. Do you offer return services yourselves?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
And are you contracting them out for the local return centers, or you have your own warehouses?
We've we use different partners. So like Rebound, for example, we've got an integration with.
Right.
We've got. I guess we utilize the volume that we get from a lot of these merchants to be able to do it ourselves. But yeah, we've got local integrations with local carriers. We don't actually hold stock for merchants, but we've got cross-stock facilities around the world that merchants can use to get returned products back to the UK, the EU, wherever they are.
Right.
So yeah, returns is a big piece, and we've got a returns portal which is fully localized, translated, branded, currencies all pulled through, so that customers can go in and key in that information easily and get the product back. And we can also manage all the duty and tax compliance, bringing that product back from Asia, the US, wherever, so that you're not impacted as a retailer by duties and taxes and any additional fees.
Superb. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi there. That was fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you seeing brands, specifically, say, electronic brands and so on, handling warranties? So, say, after-sales repairs and so on.
Yeah, great question. And we're starting to see a lot more electronics brands looking to use Globally. So we already work with like Sennheiser, Jabra, quite a few big electronics brands. It's actually a new division that we're going to be bringing in at Globally to help more electronics merchants. But there's certain like manufacturing regulations that you need across Europe that we can help with. So yeah, it still sits with the brand to own the customer relationship in terms of the goods, but Globally is getting more robust around the electronics kind of compliance that you need to have in all these markets. And I think, yeah, watch this space for the next 12 months. Any more for any more? Great, thank you very much.